It is 12 a.m. We are at the Mediacentru of Ukraine on day 90 of the Russia-Ukraine war. Today, we're marking the third month since 3 months since since Russia's attack on Ukraine. Also, these days, there's the World Economic Forum in Davos. Um, our guest today, Deputy Ivan Krulko, is there in Davos. Ivana, hello. Can you hear us? While we're testing the sound, I will say that our next briefing will be at 1. With us will be Timofey Milovanov, president of the Kyiv School of Economics and advisor to the Office of the President. At 1:30, we'll have the press officer of the United South Command South, and at 1 we expect. Ivana, can you hear us? Hello? Yes, I can hear you well. Greetings to the Ukraine Media Center. Thank you. Pane Davos, how is it different from the previous years um, this time? Well, firstly, this year's forum is not traditionally in the winter. It's not, but it's in late May. So this is the first kind of peculiarity, and it's unusual to be here without seeing snow. Um, Secondly, there's been a change of, well, everything that happened in Davos before this, because there's a lot of attention for Ukraine. We have many international guests attending various events with Ukrainian. We seem to be having technical problems. The sound is out. Our technical team is trying to get it up again. I will be back in a few minutes. Okay, no, we're back. We're back. We're back. Okay. Pana Ivana, I wanted to repeat the question because we couldn't hear you. Um, the main question is how is this Davos different from previous years? How is it peculiar? Well, I've just come back from the former Russia House that is now called the Russia War Crimes House. Uh, so it's there. It's where it used to be, but the Russians no longer have their um, representation and propaganda spot that they do every year. Right now, this is the place where they hold installations from various Ukrainian cities that have been bombed by Russians, and evidence of their crimes against humanity that took place in the territory of Ukraine. This is that key aspect, key point of this forum. Quite a few people were there. We've had events there. We've had several mayors who had been from cities that had been under Russian occupation, and currently it's just it's hard to get in. It's the place is swarmed because tons of people are coming in to see the truth about what the Russian Federation brought to Ukraine, the war and the killings. What do the powerful people say about Russia, and what do they say about Ukraine? How did the rhetoric change? Let's say let's be open that in frankly in conversations with Ukrainian politicians and activists, everyone's talking about the support of Ukraine, about how Ukrainians have shown their courage to the entire world, and how they're fighting for their land, and how they express their admiration. However, we also understand that the European Union, there are politicians in the European Union, many who are sympathetic to Russia, who feel that Russia ought not to be humiliated in any way, who would love for Ukraine to sign some kind of capitulation and come back to business as usual. So we have that too, and we should not be, we should not have any illusions about that. However, clearly many have changed their stance, including the the traditional political forces or politicians who sympathize with Russia. They are now either being silent or they're acknowledging that they had been wrong. So what do we have to do here? The most important thing for the Ukrainian politicians and for Ukrainian thought leaders to do here is we must push, we must pressure, because we understand that we need weapons. We understand that the sanctions have to strengthen, and we need new additional packages of sanctions. We understand that our job is to deoccupy our territories and return them to Ukraine, including the Donbass and Crimea. And this is why we are here now. This isn't some kind of weekend. This kind of weekend trip to spend some time in Europe. No, this is the point is to remind European politicians about the price that Ukraine is paying for democracy, so that Europeans um, finally stop coming up with some kind of uh, special conditions for Ukraine's entering the EU or candidacy for membership that are different. We don't need any special favors. We need the prospects, and we need to move to the EU, ensure our security, our economic and social security, and definitely military security. And so this work is extremely important. Nobody should relax. The war is very far from over, and politicians have to work on their field. Leave absolutely no chance for a European politician to change their opinion about providing Ukraine with weapons for as long as it takes to win. We know how the war is supposed to win, how the war ought to win. It ought to win with our victory. Does the West realize this? How do they see the conclusion of this war? Of course, there are many opinions. There are those politicians who understand that they have a historic chance to put Russia in its place and preclude the danger that Russia brings to European security and world democracy for a long time. So, which is why they support us, and we can feel it, uh, particularly from on the part of the UK, US, Poland, and our many traditional partners and friends. But of course, there are also those who will suggest to us various peace deals, but these peace deals will consist in their opinion, in understanding Russia, and on the other hand, in having Ukraine concede its territories and security interests and remain in this kind of gray area. And so this is the moment when we have to very clearly state for the world that Ukraine has lost and has paid a very high price. We have lost thousands of lives of Ukrainian civilians and military personnel. That Ukrainians have shown to the entire world that even an enemy as powerful and as Russia, as massive a country it is, can be resisted, even with a disadvantage in personnel and technology. Uh, so our job is to continue to not stop here, to continue convincing Europeans and European politicians that the genuine peace that ought to come to the European continent consists in having Russia taking away its forces and deoccupying Ukrainian territory. Basically, it's Russia's loss, defeat in this war, and Ukraine's victory. Coming back to the fact that Davos is an economic forum, what economic agenda? What economic agenda is being discussed? What awaits the world economy because of Russia's aggression? Well, the World Economic Forum um, is largely economic, but all kinds of questions are being discussed. Many economic questions go through politics and political decisions, and so I think there's more politics than economic questions. But the three main challenges that are facing the world economy today are the question of the post-COVID period. The second question is, of course, Russia's war against Ukraine. So and there's the question of food security, and Ukraine is offering its capacities. We have a lot of grain to export, but as of right now, the Russian terrorists have blocked all of Ukrainian ports and have blocked shipping in the Black Sea. So of course, if the countries of Europe and of the world, and particularly NATO, want to ensure secure shipping in the Black Sea, this problem can be resolved quite quickly, but it depends on their resolve, on their will to do this. And the traditional question that is always asked is climate change. And it seems to me that these three blocks are key, and they're being discussed in all the platforms at Davos, where we have where the where we talk about forestalling a massive economic crisis in the world. And the last question: you've seen many European politicians and world politicians. So what do we have to do to support to maintain the support of the pro-Ukrainian coalition and forestall people from going into these into compromises with Russia? You maintain this anti-Russian policy of collective defense. What ought our narratives, our thoughts, our policy to be? Well, it seems to me that in this war, it's best if everybody does their job well. Mm. Our armed forces, our military personnel are giving us politicians good arguments for talking to any European and world leaders, because they show their heroic resistance and their courage. It is up to us now to use every platform to keep reminding the world of the crimes perpetrated by Russia and specifically demand the constant operation of Lend-Lease, of the American Lend-Lease, and support from the world when we get enough weapons, including offensive weapons, to liberate our territories with minimal losses among our military. And of course, we have to demand a European prospect for Ukraine, namely granting Ukraine the candidate status for EU membership, and also a clear path, a path of how we will integrate into NATO. NATO is the military and political bloc that is the only effective one in the world. Of course, we have many questions that have to with in connection with the aggression of the Russian Federation and how NATO worked. We have all kinds of questions there, but we don't have an alternative. So our second job is to fight for integration into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. After Finland and Sweden are joining with a simplified procedure, this is also a path for Ukraine. This is a precedent we can follow to get security guarantees through NATO and get economic prospects and opportunities through the EU. Thank you very much. With us was Ivan Krulko, parliamentary deputy of Ukraine, who is in Davos and observing it at first hand. Our next briefing will be at 1 o'clock with Timofey Milovanov, president of the Kyiv School of Economics and advisor to the Office of the